What's up, yes, it's the Russian dude. Let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. Okay, today we have once again our familiar friends battle Babushkas, and this time they recorded a video message not to the people of Russia, but to the President of the United States, Joe Biden himself. They're basically saying that, hey man, stop embarrassing yourself and your country, you need to learn how to behave properly, how to walk properly, how to talk properly. I mean, just take a look at our favorite President Putin. Which kind of president are you, Battle Babushkas are saying, if you cannot even guarantee your second term? Once again, look at our Putin ruling over us for more than 2 decades. This is the strong leader that every country should have. Then Battle Babushkas also said that Joe Biden is old, and which is pretty controversial and hysterical. Paradoxical, because Battle Babushkas are no young either. But well, once again, the level of Russian propaganda decreases every single day, so no surprise here. Jokes aside, now let me give you a brief update from the south and the east of Ukraine, where the secret underground passages in Chasiv Yar were discovered, which potentially might become a game changer. We're also going to talk about 9,000 Chechens secretly emerging in Ukraine, and then ex-president of America, Trump, proposing his plan how he would end this war in Ukraine. And first of all, right here is the video from the south of Ukraine, specifically from Kherson, where Ukrainians using GML-RS and were able to destroy a concentration of Russian forces. And then right here is the consequences of one of the previous attacks, where reportedly Ukrainians also used the HIMARS and destroyed a small military base of Russians, which included several military vehicles. In response to that, Russians unfortunately decided to continue target primarily residential and civilian infrastructure all around Ukraine. This last night there was another mass attack. As you can see, in Kiev, one of the biggest oil refineries was partially destroyed, and other major cities according to this map were affected as well. On this next map you can see the routes which Russian missiles and drones were taking, but luckily Ukrainian air defense was extremely good last night, intercepting 5 out of 5 Russian missiles and 48 out of 53 Shahed drones. In Belarus, if you remember one of my previous videos, the country is pretty much preparing just in case to enter the war as soon as Putin tells them to do it. Right here are the new satellite images which show that the Z army brought a lot of their own munition to one of Belarusian cities, and this also included Iskander missiles. Well, unfortunately, this country is to the north of Ukraine, so it makes it a little bit closer for these cylinders to arrive into the capital of Ukraine, specifically Kiev. So, unfortunately, let's see, the unpredictability of this conflict increased slightly, to say the least. Next we move to the Ukrainian actual eastern front lines, and first of all right here is the video from Vovchansk, where a Russian military armored vehicle called Tiger was destroyed by Ukrainians. And also speaking about the city of Vovchansk, Ukrainians were able to completely stall the advancement of Russians and even start to retake some territories. According to this map, this area highlighted in blue is what Ukrainians were able to recapture. Another settlement along Kharkov front line called Staritsa is where Russians also tried some attempts, which were completely unsuccessful, and then Ukrainians did a little bit of their own counteroffensive. That is why we have this video which shows the consequences that another small military unit of Russians was fully destroyed. In Kupiansk, right here we have a compilation video of drone operators from the unit called Nebesna Mara, and as you can see, a pretty decent number of Russian military vehicles is also being split into atoms. But unfortunately, the pressure of Russians along Kupiansk frontline also increased recently. That is why they were able to partially capture Ivanyivka. From another settlement along eastern frontline called Pokrovsky, we have this video of a Ukrainian Bradley is doing pretty much one-on-one duel against a Russian armored personnel carrier. And well, Bradley showed its total superiority. But one of the biggest events from the east happened in Luhansk, where Ukrainians reportedly using ATACMS were able to target and destroy a local Russian military training base. First of all, according to Russian propaganda, they were saying that this was like a hotel or like a kindergarten school, like something like this. But well, even the locals themselves, they started to disbelieve finally to the propaganda, because they knew they lived in this place their entire lives. They said that no, for a very long time this building was occupied by the Z soldiers. They even showed us pictures like this, and then there are even satellite images, leaving it absolutely no chances for the Z propaganda to change the facts, to change the reality. As soon as the local residents spoke, Z propaganda for some reason became very silent. Along Chasiv Yar front line, Ukrainian armed forces were able to retake a small settlement called Kalinivka. But the main event of this day, also coming from Chasiv Yar, is that even more these pipes, or if you wanna call them underground passages, were discovered recently. Guys, if you remember, Russians already tried to use something like this in Avdiivka. Whenever they discovered these canals or like these underground pipes where human waste was flowing through, well, they tried to use this to try and appear behind Ukrainian front lines. At first they kinda relatively succeeded, but then Ukrainians quickly realized what's going on. In this case, these underground passages / sewer pipes were under the control by the Ukrainian drones since the beginning, just in case Russians decide to attempt something similar. And indeed, whenever the sea soldiers tried to use it, Ukrainian drone operators immediately spotted it, and they kinda encased some of these sea soldiers inside these pipes forever. As you imagine, this is one of the worst ways to go. Literally, I would say it is literally out of the question. But another thing is that theoretically, if Ukrainians will be able to start fully pushing Russians away from Chasiv Yar, because even though right now these pipes are already under Ukrainian control, so Ukrainians controls exits and enters to these pipes. So what I mean by that, whenever Russians start to retreat, Ukrainians potentially can use these pipes to their advantage and go behind Russian front lines. This is just a wild assumption, just a theory, but you never know what can happen. And by the way, every single photo and video which I'm showing in my episodes, full and uncensored versions, guys, you can find on my Patreon, the link is down below. 1 week of free access for every single one of you to try. And by the way, recently I saw this guy in the comments, BenyoMovod6904, who said that no matter how hard I try, I will never be able to convince him to join my Patreon. Well, how about rock, paper, scissors? Guys, if you want to participate as well, okay, it's a best of one. Whoever wins now wins everything. If you lose, you join Patreon. If you win, I guess you don't join Patreon, then you can subscribe to my channel. How about that? Okay, rock, paper, scissors. So I have scissors. Well, if I won, you need to join my Patreon. If I lost, you feel free to subscribe to my channel. How about that? Right, so yeah, now let's really briefly talk about Chechens, specifically 9,000 of them, secretly emerging in Ukraine, and then we're going to talk about the Trump's plan to end this war. And long story short, the Chechen situation story came to us according to this one of the most recent reports by the British intelligence, who claimed that yes, these pro-Russian Chechens, they were in Ukraine all the way since 2014. They were not that much active, but whenever this special military operation started, they did intensify their activities, primarily in TikTok. I mean, imagine the British intelligence, Ministry of Defense of the United Kingdom, even they call those Chechens TikTok warriors. Well, at this point, this is a total humiliation and total disbelief that these Chechens are capable of anything. I mean, I didn't say it. It's the Ministry of Defense of the United Kingdom claiming you TikTok warriors. What else? It is just ridiculous. But anyways, so yeah, they were kinda in Ukraine since the beginning of special military operation. Then there was this Wagner soldiers who are primarily responsible for partial success of Russians in the east, specifically in Wagner, in Bakhmut, I mean. And well, whenever Wagner withdrew from the east of Ukraine, and then we all know what happened with its leader Yevgeny Prigozhin. those Chechens, they had to take the positions of those left Wagners who left, right? But since the only capabilities which they can do is to film TikToks, post them so that people can see, the patriots can see that, wow, you're such brave people, incredible. So since now they actually have to fight, they do not have time to do TikToks anymore, which is unsurprisingly led to a decrease of number of posts from these pro-Russian Chechens in Ukraine. And yes, according to the very same report by the British intelligence, right now it is approximately 9,000 of those Chechens which recently secretly emerged like out of nowhere literally in Ukraine. Well, the impact is also, as you can see, not noticeable at all. And ultimately, let's talk about the ex-president of US, Donald Trump, plan, how he would end this war in Ukraine and how he wants to do it as soon as possible. Guys, this is an extra chapter for my Patreon members. Thank you so much for your support. This means a lot. Because of YouTube problems, Patreon became now main source of income. So if you want to help the Russian Dude project to continue going forward, if you don't mind, just please go ahead and check my Patreon, the link is down below, the best way to support the channel. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget about my second channel, the Russian Dude Investing. All the other links are down below: PayPal, Patreon, Instagram, and of course, merch. Thank you so much for watching. See you on Tuesday.
All night long, Russian dude, the Russian dude, he'll drink and dance and never brew with a smile.